Hello, everyone, and welcome to ForcedToPod. My name is Saxon, but you can call me Sax. Joining me tonight, I have a man who knows no stranger nor pepper too spicy. Nick, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Not too
Yeah.
bad. Busy, tired, usual.
Yeah. Yeah. Feels like the beginning of the year. And you had a busy weekend this weekend, but we're going to talk about that here in just a second.
Yes.
But I want to jump over, because last but certainly not least, making his triumphant return from the front lines of mankind's battle with our robot overlords, we have the man who would always rather be outside than wherever he is right now, the man, the myth, the legend. I am the Mountain Man Walker. It's nice to have you back, man. How you doing?
Yeah, good. I'm glad to be back. Did miss it last week, although I was mostly just sleeping. I've been working, 10 plus hours a day doing the work stuff. Been we've been noses to the grindstone for sure on this push. So hopefully coming week we'll be able to demonstrate what we've been making our prototype to do. So
Good.
if we can do that,
Sweet.
we'll be good.
Is that
And I
light at
just
the end of the tunnel? Is that freedom or is that a train coming?
Yeah, hard to say. Six of one, half dozen of the other.
Yeah.
Because if we have to prove something, and if we can prove the thing,
Then you have to do the
then
thing.
then we have to do the thing. So
Yeah.
we'll see. It's all interesting. It's fun.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying my job. Just tired.
just
Blink.
got to keep saying it.
Yeah, blink twice if
I
you
actually,
need
I
help.
actually am. I actually am. It's been a ton of work, but it's all been very interesting. And I'm learning a lot, truly.
Good.
So, but
Well, good,
boy,
man.
am
Well,
I sleepy.
yeah. Well, we'll try to we'll try to keep it off work stuff because I know that's been on your mind
Yeah.
and other stuff. So let me get some housekeeping out of the way real quick, and then we'll hop into some of our topics for the week. So housekeeping tonight. This is episode 17 of the podcast, and in this new year, we're striving to grow the show, grow the Force Pod community. So like we talked about last week, we're on all the social medias. We're going out there. We're venturing forth into that scary unknown. We don't know if these platforms are going to stay up or not, or if they're going down. But if they go down, I guess we're going down with them. So, but hey, if you see one of our videos, you see one of our, one of our posts, our page out there, would you like and subscribe that? If you listen, maybe you listen on Spotify every week, you see one of our stories, something of that sort. Following that kind of stuff, that really helps the algorithms, lets them know to show it to more people. So we'll see. I'll post a video up, and then once a couple people like it, it's crazy how quick things will explode and those numbers will go up. So we appreciate when you guys do that. And then the last thing is we want to continue a conversation with you. So like, if something in here resonates, later on we're going to talk about some deeper questions. I'd love to know some of your thoughts on them. And so if you'd like to join the conversation, go to bit.ly/ForcedToPod Discord. If you go to that link, it's going to open up. If you have Discord, it'll just ask you and say, hey, you're invited, and you can join from there. If not, you can create a profile there, join in, and then you'll see some channels, some things that you can talk about, things that we talk about here on the podcast. So, yeah, that's my housekeeping out of the way. I just wanted to open up and talk about one thing this weekend. It was my birthday this past weekend, and I appreciate everyone sending the happy birthday, stuff like that. We did something really cool with our Destiny clan. I just want to talk about it real quick. So I kind of impromptu just got a bit of inspiration and wanted to do a raid marathon. And so if you don't know anything about Destiny, that's fine. There are these things called raids where you get 6 people together and you take down levels, bosses, use your skills that you get elsewhere in the game and bring them forth and use them together. And then there's puzzles and different things you have to do. So we were able to get a bunch of people together, and that was a really, really fun time. And so I just wanted to shout out to everyone who showed up, made time this weekend to make that event awesome. Walker, you were a part of it. Nick doesn't play Destiny, but Walker was in there. I even got Heather in there. So, Walker, do you have any thoughts on that? What was your experience with our raid marathon this weekend?
That was just a ton of fun. It was good break. Since I've been back and forth to Houston so much, mostly a good reminder for me that I need to fix my damn computer because I've just been back and forth on this stupid laptop. But I did really enjoy it. I haven't been playing Destiny much recently with all all the work and travel. So it was nice to get back. That's my sort of topic for the weekend. We'll get back into it, but it's always nice to get back into Destiny. It's one of those games.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to get people to reinstall the game. That's kind of that was the running joke for the whole weekend. Was like, man, like I had to clear space on my hard drive, but I'm sure glad I did. So getting in there to do that, and then they kicked off their new season or their new episode as they're calling them now, Heresy, and so they just started that today. And so there was a lot of people playing, and that was the one thing that we got, right? We got a lot of feedback and people saying, hey, we want to play together. We want to do more things as a community. And so I took on the slightly stressful job of trying to wrangle, 30 plus adults. I think that was a wide number that we had from across the globe. We got people over in Australia, New Zealand, the UK. We got people in South Africa who were playing with us, people up in Canada. And so, and obviously our stateside friends. And so getting everyone together, trying to figure out, okay, what time zone, like what time is it when it's 8 p.m. here? Like where, okay, that's 3 a.m. You're not going to be able to do that, and try to get them all worked around. So it was a great time. I just wanted to take a quick second, shout out everyone for that. So let's move off of that because we're going to talk about video games a little more later. But topic number one for the night is a timely one. Nick, you went to Royal Rumble this past weekend. Tell us a little bit about that.
I actually went to Friday Night SmackDown and the Royal Rumble on Saturday. So it's hard to explain without like sounding like I'm a huge wrestling fan, which I'm not. I obviously I was when I was a kid, right? That was like the peak of wrestling. Stone Cold Steve Austin, Sting, Mankind, The Rock, Triple H, all those guys, all the names that even people who have never watched wrestling probably know. That was the heyday, right? So we're kind of at this point in wrestling where all of those guys are doing like a one last hurrah kind of thing. I think it was last year during WrestleMania, Stone Cold came back and did like a little match with somebody. You got to see him chug a bunch of beers and give somebody the stunner and all that stuff. It was fun. And Triple H is running pretty much the entire show now. The Rock comes back all the time. And this is like John Cena's official last year. He's going to be retiring for good, for real, this year, at the end of the year or whatever. So, so my buddy had bought 4 tickets for the Royal Rumble, which is at Lucas Oil Stadium. I think this is a crazy number to me. The official attendance was like somewhere around 70,000.
It's a select crowd to get that many. It was
crazy
in the same place.
That's pretty good.
Friday,
how many people can fit into that stadium? First of all,
we looked up about stadium capacity last week.
Yeah, the official stadium capacity is some 60 something. Like when the Colts play, it's far less because the ring is very small compared to the size of a football field, and so they have all the chairs. Yeah, there's a bunch of chairs on the floor and stuff. But so we went to SmackDown on Friday, which was it was packed. There were no seats. Yeah, it was great. So I was planning on going with my buddy for Saturday. Friday was a much smaller event, as kind of just like the appetizer for the main event on Saturday, and it was at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, which is the capacity somewhere around 18,000. It's where the Pacers play basketball. I was looking at tickets for Friday just to like, hey, let's do a back-to-back. I'm going to go with one of my buddies on Friday who's actually going to move out of state soon, so I'm like, it would be fun to hang out with him. He has connections to some people, so he got essentially really good seats for almost nothing. So we went, and then my buddy I went with on Saturday, Cameron, his company actually rented out a suite at Gainbridge. So we ended up just
That's
going up
always good.
and hanging out in the suite for most of the night. It wasn't like beer and food and everything included, but it was just space for us to all go and hang
Still
out.
great.
Yeah, it was a good time. We saw a couple wrestlers that I actually knew on Friday, but dude, on Saturday, I mean, it was ridiculous. So the format for a Royal Rumble is 30 participants. And they had they had 2 matches in the middle and then the men's rumble. So essentially you start out with 2 wrestlers in the ring. Every 2 minutes, another person comes in. If you get thrown over the top rope and both feet touch the ground outside the ring, you're eliminated. And so at one point, there's like 17 people all fighting each other in the ring. Yeah, it got ridiculous. There were
Ridiculous,
Ric Flair's daughter, Charlotte Flair, came back. There were a couple of old school, or not old school, but like older generation lady wrestlers that came. That was very fun. Everybody was going crazy. There was a match in the middle. It was like a tag team match that we didn't watch. We were out in the lobby, like getting a drink and hanging out. It sounded very dead. We didn't hear any crowd noise from like out in the lobby. And then the next match was a title fight or whatever, but it was a ladder match. So they take the 2 belts that are up for grabs and they suspend them over the ring, and you have to get a ladder and climb up the ladder and get the belts. And so they're just beating the hell out of each other, throwing each other into ladders and all kinds of nonsense. It was fun. And then the men's rumble was insane. I mean, the very first person that came out was Rey Mysterio, which is probably a name that you've heard at least once before. And he's 50 years old and wrestled for almost an hour and a half. Just getting thrown around, jumping off the ropes. So he comes out. He's the first person that comes out. The place erupts. The next guy was very popular. It gets crazy. And so, they intermix the new generation guys or lesser known dudes or whatever. So they're kind of dispersed. And when I tell you, first of all, I would like to, I'll come back to this about the passion from the fans of the wrestling. It's unmatched. It's unlike anything I've ever seen, to include Detroit Lions fans. So like when certain guys come out that the crowd's really into, they know immediately. Like there's a countdown, there's a 10-second countdown. When it hits 0, there's a buzzer, and then the song plays for whoever's coming in. And it, like the first note, these people know who's coming and they lose it. And I was only familiar with like 3 of the, entrance songs. One of them was John Cena. And as soon as everybody knew that it was going to be John Cena, it was deafening. I mean, the place was shaking. There was 70,000 people losing their minds collectively. I didn't hear the trumpet part of his theme song because everybody was screaming so loud. And, so it was just... Cool. On Friday night, I was making a joke about... when we were walking into Gainbridge, I'm like, I've seen 50 copies of the exact same dude since I walked in here. It's like sweatpants, a big baggy wrestling shirt, and a long goatee. Like that, I saw that guy 100,000 times. But like now I kind of feel bad that I was dogging the fans, because after Saturday, I mean, it was, everybody knows it's scripted. Everybody knows that these guys are, for the most part, not really getting beat up. They're not really getting hurt. They're doing some very impressively athletic things, like backflips off the top rope, landing on each other, throwing each other around. Almost every single person the entire night was absolutely jacked. There were like 3 people who were big fat guys, and everybody else was just insanely in shape. And it's very hard to explain. It's almost like, people get passionate about TV shows or soap operas or whatever. It's like that, but for jacked dudes that are fighting each other in underwear, which when you explain it that way seems weird. But everybody there knew everybody's like entrance song. The guy that won, everybody knew all the words to his like theme song that played afterwards and stuff. And it's just... there's certain parts where if somebody's like doing a certain move to another guy, the crowd yells out while they're doing it. Like, it was very wholesome because like the two main chants that broke out during all of the fighting or whatever was "This is awesome," just everybody's "This is awesome," and then the other one was "Holy shit, holy shit," just. So I mean, we had a great time. Obviously, my wife made fun of me a lot for going to watch wrestling, but like, it exceeded all of my expectations, and so Indianapolis is actually scheduled to get a future WrestleMania and a future SummerSlam, and I'm probably going to go to at least one of those two things. That's how much fun we had.
Yeah, that sounds sick. That actually, like, I mean, obviously I know wrestlers, right? Like I know, you could name off a lot of wrestlers and I would know their names, but I don't, like, I hear the term like Royal Rumble or WrestleMania, whatever, and like I don't know what those are. Like, I guess in my head I always envision them to be more like UFC, like fight nights, right?
Yeah.
Like, and maybe some of them are, right, where it's like, hey, this guy's going to be, wrestling this dude.
Yeah.
And like they're going after, for the belt or whatever, but like I couldn't discern. You just gave me a better explanation. I have a better understanding of like what Royal Rumble is.
I
would have never been able to tell you.
I didn't really know. Like I'd watched it when I was younger, right? But I didn't really know how it went. And I guess the winner of the Royal Rumble gets a chance to fight the current champ at WrestleMania or something like that. So that's why there was this big thing. Yeah, I don't know. It was fun. I would say pretty close to a bucket list thing if you at all have any interest in wrestling, right? If you don't care one bit and you never cared before and you don't care about the old guys going out and the new guys coming in or whatever, probably not worth going unless you can get a free ticket or whatever. I will say there are some warranted stereotypes that happen with the fan base. There were a lot of really big fat guys in the, neckbeardy kind of Reddit mods in the fan base. There were a lot of people that did not smell good. And it was funny. One of the dudes, one guy that was hanging out, I won't say in what capacity, just in case. There was a person that was around us at some point this weekend who looked at one of my friends and was like, "There's a lot of black people here." Like it was yeah, dude. There's 70,000 people.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of.
You're gonna get a sampling of the people in the city.
It was very diverse. Yeah, it was just funny. He was like, almost to him as if I thought only white people liked wrestling, kind of thing. But yeah, it was. I don't know, man. It was good. Obviously, Indianapolis is a great host city for things like that. If you're not familiar, the convention center and Lucas Oil and everything being right next to each other. I made a joke to Cameron, the guy I went with on Saturday. We went, parked downtown, ate like lunch, dinner, or whatever at the Taco Bell Cantina, which is two doors down from the Conrad, which is the fanciest hotel in the entire city, which I thought was hilarious. And so we had Taco Bell, and then we went and watched wrestling. And I was like, the 14-year-old version of me is unbelievably psyched at what happened on Saturday night.
Well, I think we're gonna talk a little bit about ideal scenarios later. But I'm glad to hear you say that we're gonna talk about the happiest moments of our lives. But what were you saying, Walker?
Yeah, I was just gonna say there's really nothing better when you're talking about the crowd. There's nothing better, in my opinion, than just a bunch of people liking something all together. It's just really nice when everybody can just kind of get over being, I don't know. Sometimes you get like, I'm too cool to like something that I like, or, you get over the awkwardness of it, and everybody's just enjoying themselves in a group. It's just a ton of fun. So I'm really glad you got that.
The guys running the show are doing a really good job of like keeping fans engaged in a certain way. So like everybody loved most of the people in the same way, and then hated the guys that they're supposed to hate. Like Logan Paul was the last guy to come out, and everybody's boo. He's like a pretty boy heel now, right? So I mean, he's a great wrestler as far as wrestling goes. He's very athletic. He's in great shape, but Yeah, everybody like hated him, and he was eliminating people, and everybody's like, "Oh, come on!" And then he got eliminated by John Cena, and everybody's like, "Ah!" It was
How cool? How cool must that be for him though? Like,
yeah,
because I mean, he's right around our age. You know what I mean? Like
right.
to be eliminated and to be like, I mean, if you have any familiarity with Logan Paul, he just feeds off of being the heel, like in every capacity.
He's perfect.
So the idea that he gets to be a villain and then get eliminated by John Cena in one of his like that's got to be so cool. I'm sorry, like he's whatever, he's done some terrible things, but like that's pretty cool for any human being who's around our age who has any care about wrestling. Like,
yeah,
I just love John Cena. He's just such a cool dude.
Yeah.
Isn't he the one with the most Make-A-Wish completions or whatever by like an order of magnitude?
Yeah, it's
like multiple hundreds.
It's essentially all he does is wrestle and then go visit sick kids in the hospital. That's what it seems like.
And make sick ass TV shows. I want another season of Peacemaker. I don't know if either of you watched it.
Good. Peacemaker.
No. It was fucking awesome. I loved the shit out of it. And he's so good at it too. Dude, I want another season.
Well, the thing is,
you should have told me before I went. I would have let him know.
Yeah, John, what are you doing, buddy? Come on.
See him the entire night, but
no, he and it was
he
gone.
Did he
get you?
Yeah. So I was, after he came in and everything kind of settled down, I looked at my buddy and I was like, man, he's got to do it, right? Like, they play it up where guys get thrown over the rope and they hang on, so they act like they're going to get eliminated, and it happens. And so early on, he's like almost eliminated a bunch of times, and I was like, there's no way he's going to get tossed out before he does the thing.
Right.
He did the thing. It was great.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, I wanted to ask you so we've already talked about Logan Paul. Were there any other new guys that impressed you? Like maybe you didn't know about them and then they came in, they're like, oh, wow.
I guess. I mean, like the guy who won, Jey Uso, I didn't really know much about him. He and his brother both wrestle. I think his brother's name's Jimmy. He's very, very popular. Like Cameron was telling me the whole night, he was like, I think Jay's going to win. He's like kind of the up-and-comer kind of thing. But they had like older guys, newer guys, all intermixed. CM Punk was there. I don't know if you know him.
I know the name. I couldn't pick him in a lineup, but
same. I couldn't have before Saturday, right? It was and Seth freaking Rollins, but like there was one point where some guy starts running down the ramp to come in, and somebody who had already been eliminated knocks him out, right? And so they pan the cameras to backstage, and Triple H is standing back there with a bunch of people, and he was like, somebody's got to replace him. And so everybody immediately starts speculating who they think it's going to be. And you just see Triple H go, get in there. And it was iShow Speed, the streamer. And he comes flying down the ramp, and everybody in the stadium goes, Speed! And he comes in and like tries to eliminate a couple people, knocks somebody over, does a backflip, and then catches the nastiest spear by somebody.
So
just gets annihilated. Yeah. And then he gets literally picked up and thrown out of the ring, caught by another guy, and then slammed on the table where the announcers were. Just, I mean, like everybody was impressive because they're literally jumping 12 feet out of the ring, like doing backflips and stuff. It's just, if you throw yourself into it, you're like, I don't like that guy. I want my other guy to win. But it's like watching a professional sport where everybody's doing stuff that there's no way you can do it, regardless of if the outcome was written, 2 weeks ago or whatever.
So it sounds like a ton of fun, honestly.
It really does. Yeah, honestly, it does. Well, I'm not even kidding. You need to let me know like when that stuff's coming back to Indy, and let's talk about it. Okay. We'll see if we can make that work, because that sounds like a good time. Have you guys ever seen the movie Peanut Butter Falcon?
I have watched the trailer, but not actually the whole movie.
I know what it's about, but no, I haven't watched it yet.
So it is Heather and I's favorite movie. I will say for sure it is one of like our couple favorite movies. Like I have some that I would like to sit down and watch probably here, but together Like if we're sitting down and we just don't know what to watch, like I would watch that, or I will show it to whoever, and I guarantee we're gonna have a great time. But the gist of it is in, I believe they're in like a North Carolina type situation, or I'm sorry, a South Carolina type situation. They're trying to get down into Florida.
It's the same.
It is, but the journey is to get into, like, get deep into Florida. They're kind of moving through the swamps. And so the concept is it starts, and there's kind of like it's not a retirement home, but it's more like a, the word's escaping me. It's more like a hospice type situation where there is a guy who has Down syndrome. His name is Zach. And the state has put him into this facility with all of these, like, very old and ill, like, elderly people. Mm-hmm. And Zach just loves wrestling, and he's just a thick boy who's super strong, and just he wants more than anything in his entire life to meet and train with the saltwater redneck who is on this VHS tape that he has. And he just plays it over and over and over again. He watches it every day, multiple times, and he trains like the stuff that's on there. And so he escapes from that facility, and in that process, he crosses paths with Shia LaBeouf's character, who gets into some trouble. And so they're kind of on the run together. Zach escaping this facility and escaping like the people who are caring for him, and he comes along with Shia's character. And as they're moving together, it just turns to this like buddy comedy, super heartfelt situation, and their journey to basically get Zach to the saltwater redneck, and so he can train with them. And so it is such. I mean, it just pulls at your heartstrings, and you can't be sad when you're watching that movie. There's some of the funniest little things that Heather and I say in there. And so, yeah, that's my little recommendation. Tying it to wrestling, just doing all that. It's awesome. So.
That reminds me that there is a way more lighthearted wrestling movie. It's called Ready to Rumble. And it is a really dumb 2000s comedy. It was literally made in 2000. Just had to look it up. It has David Arquette and Scott Conn are the two main characters. And essentially, they're idiot dudes, and their hero is a WCW wrestler, and he gets screwed out of the world title by Diamond Dallas Page. And and they, like, go on a quest to get him back into the ring and, like, help him win the title back or whatever. It's so dumb, but it's very, very funny.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't have my cousins growing up were really into wrestling, but it was just something my dad is a literal wrestling coach, like a grappling type wrestling coach, but never anything of that sort. But yeah, it's very impressive what they can do. So well, that sounds awesome. Any other thoughts on the Royal Rumble? Or is that kind of what you have for us?
No, I'm gonna reflect on it further. I'll let you know if anything comes up. The last thing I'll say is anytime I go to a big event like that, I buy like a lapel pin. So I have a straw hat I can show you at some point. Mostly just has pins around the top of it from every year I've gone to the Indy 500. But if I go to a different event that year, like 2 years ago I went to the Vegas NASCAR race, got a pin from that. I got a pin from Daytona 500 last year. I got one from the PGA Championship that I went to last year. So I was in line at the merch place with Cameron, and I was like, I'm going to get a program, which is a huge, like 11 by 17. It's just all full page photos of different wrestlers. I'll get a program, and so I saw that they had pins, but it just a sign that said pins, $15 or whatever. So I'm like, yeah, let me get one of those, and she hands it to me, and it's freaking massive. It's like way bigger than all of the other pins on my hat. So it's just kind of capped off the absurdity of the entire weekend. Is that I just wanted a little pin to put on my hat, and it's humongous.
That's awesome.
Will it even fit on your hat, or is it just going to completely not work?
Yeah, it's on there. I'll go grab it real fast.
Awesome.
Give the people what they want.
Yeah, we got to see it. Yeah, I don't. I don't know. I collected a lot of things like that from different events. We'll get the concert shirts and stuff like that, but
Yeah, so it's all like this first year I went.
Oh, nice.
It goes all the way around. All the years I've gone with my dad. So this PGA Championship.
Those are bigger than I thought they'd be as well.
Yeah, those are not small.
Daytona, Brickyard from last year, and then this honking thing. It's like
okay, that's not that much bigger. That's like 50% bigger.
It's double
30%
the size.
bigger.
No, it's double the size of any of the Indy 500 pins. Easy. I mean, if you cover half of it, it's the same size. This one's bigger than most of the 500 pins. It's twice as big.
Huh.
Okay, it's not small.
Yeah, it was just, it's just funny. I was like, okay, I'm going to have this thing to remember it. Yeah. It's also huge.
Very thematically appropriate.
Right.
I like it.
Well, my problem is, the closest thing to a bigger sporting event we went to was the women's volleyball national championship, because they had the Final Four here in Louisville, and Louisville made it to the championship against Penn State. So we went. They had shirts, and if we wanted 2 of them, it would have been like $90. Yeah. I'm like, okay, like no, thank you. Like, I don't know. It just was one of those things where the experience was enough for me, and it being in our hometown, I was like, all right, I don't need to get into all this. So,
yeah. I don't know if I've ever told you about the one time I did sports. Oh, that is cool. I like that. Yeah. So, dear listener, I am not particularly well known as a sports aficionado.
Most guys that program and work with robots are not.
Well, yeah, but I did go to one football game once. My very dear friend from college, Margaret, who was my roommate my junior year. No, sophomore year. No, junior year. No, junior year. I'm losing track of things. She actually set me up with Chloe, so shout out Margaret.
There you go.
She and my other roommate Josh, they're officiating our wedding, so actually you guys will get to meet them.
Oh, sweet.
But yeah, Margaret's dad, they're from Knoxville, and so he's very into the Vols, and they were playing at Kyle Field, obviously A&M. Okay. And he had tickets for some reason. I don't remember why. I think he just had season tickets, but there were 4 of them. So it was myself, Margaret's dad, and Margaret's boyfriend. All went to the Tennessee A&M game. So he drove down from Knoxville, picked us up in Houston.
Wow. And
then we drove back up to College Station, and he came with Chick-fil-A and Tennessee t-shirts for everyone. Oh. What a guy. And we watched the game, and this was by far, obviously we tailgated first, a bunch of people there. We had a great time. And then Kyle Field is massive. I think it's like 105,000 people can fit in. And this was just full to the brim, completely crazy. And this was, I as somebody who does not watch much, if any, football, this was like the most crazy game of football I've ever seen in my entire life. The Vols ended up losing in triple overtime, which you can't even be mad about that. Like it was crazy. I've never heard so many people screaming and yelling, and you could feel the crowd in your chest. It was,
jeez.
I tell Claire, I don't need to go see another game. That was it. That was as good as it's ever going to get.
It's just about. Yep.
It was perfect. Patrick ruined football for me. But God, what a game. I loved it. That's what I was thinking about when you were talking. Just, it's just so fun to have people all enjoying something at once.
Right.
Cause I don't really give a shit about football, but I was the best fucking time.
That's awesome.
I don't know. So good.
Yeah. I think there's something about, the difference between you went and you had a good game, but then Nick grew up as a Lions fan and he had many years without any good games, and then
right. Also IU and
so you're always Colts. Longing for it's all right, this is the
Pacers.
Yeah, we're gonna keep
Pacers are always a bridesmaid. Never can't get over that hump, man.
So. All right, well, we've talked enough sports ball tonight, so no, that's awesome. And I am serious. I will I think
Yeah.
you nailed it for me when you were like, okay, this could be a bucket list thing, like to get in the same room with that many people for something like that. I'm like, all right, sounds good to me. So
Yeah.
all right, let's shift to topic number 2. Walker, you sent this. You actually sent this last week when we were recording
Yeah.
the double episodes and stuff like this, and then you reiterated. You said, I do want to definitely talk about this.
Yeah.
And so I liked how you put it first. When you reminded me today, you said it differently, but I went back to see how you actually said it first. So you said you want to talk about games with staying power. And so walk us through what does that mean for you? What is that? And then why is that on your brain right now? And then maybe we can hop into some things that resonate with us too.
Yeah. So I was thinking about it this past week, and when I sent that, because I flashback again to college. I played a ton of Battlefield 1 when it came out. And I didn't really, I don't think I'd played any of the Battlefield games before. I don't even know why I started playing it, but I played so much Battlefield 1. This was pre-Destiny for me. Hundreds of hours of Battlefield 1, just like random people, totally by myself, no clan, no Discord, no nothing. I don't even know when was Discord founded, actually. That's a question I have.
My man was out here raw dogging Battlefield.
Yeah, no, I was like doing matchmaking and shit.
So Discord was a little baby, was invented May 2015. Battlefield 1 came out October 21st of 2016. So it had not reached any kind of critical mass at that point.
Yeah, there's certainly, I mean, it wasn't a thing. And I think I got it right when it came out, and I played the ever-loving shit out of that. You asked some of my roommates, they could hear the tanks and shells exploding through the walls. And
what is the setting of that Battlefield game? I'm not super familiar with the Battlefield games.
It's World War One, and then they did Battlefield 5, which is World War II. They do the whole fucking skipping around with weird ass names, but I do personally think that Battlefield 1 is like one of the best games of all time. That's when I say staying power, because it's just fucking simple. It's just, I booted it up and it was exactly the same this past week as it was, 9 years ago when I was playing it, just because it's simple. You get the classic Battlefield formula. For those who don't know, you've got 4 classes, which you can be, it's slightly different game to game, but you got your support character, and in Battlefield 1 they have machine guns, and they can shoot, they can resupply people with ammo, and they have little mortars, or the medic who heals people and revives, and then you got your sniper, and then your assault who has shotguns or close range weapons, breaking it down into very standard video game archetypes. But I think the nature of the setting meant, you're not really putting optics on the guns. You're not really, it limited the number of options for weapons for each class. The sniper has like 5 different bolt action rifles they can pick from, right? And there's variety of, it doesn't feel like, oh God, I don't have any choice or anything. But compared to something like Call of Duty, where you have so many different,
ridiculous.
So many different customization options, and at the end of the day, what it means is your playing field feels very level. You pick your class that you like the most, and then the other great thing about Battlefield is that it's like 32 versus 32 in the game mode that I most enjoy playing, or maybe even more than that, but just really large scale, chaotic, and these servers are still running. Like, they're just like fan servers that are still running. I had no problem finding a game on full servers instantly when I booted it up. I mean, I had to wait in a queue for these servers. And obviously, it's all run by not EA anymore. Sure.
Which
but
some would say is better.
Yeah.
Props to them for letting it continue on in that way. And it just felt exactly the same. They hit their formula. They did exactly what they wanted to do, and then everybody is still enjoying it. which I
Sometimes
think
it's-
is not to be a fucking boomer, but I like things the way they were, and I like things to be the way they are. Um, and I wanted to shout out Battlefield 1 for being just very well executed and not trying to be anything more than what it is.
Yeah.
So
There's something to be
Battlefield
said about
1 or the first Battlefield?
No, yeah, okay, Battlefield 1, not the first Battlefield.
Okay.
It's not the first Battlefield.
Like you said, they're confusing names and they jump around.
Right. Yep.
Yes.
I mean
that is good.
because I wasn't playing Battlefield games when Battlefield came out.
Gotcha.
So there's something to be said about getting to play a game where you're not like double jumping and wall running and dolphin
Fortnite.
diving off of the third floor and then pulling your parachute for like 2 seconds before your feet touch the like you watch the new Call of Duty games and it's just
Right.
And I understand
It's overwhelming
that's
in a
what
lot
they
of ways.
are, but it's a mockery of like what where it's come from, right? Like it even was back when Modern Warfare was coming out, and we're hitting 360 no scopes on Skyrise,
Slide
and
canceling.
yeah, and that kind of stuff. But even at that point, it was a little more grounded. Whereas now, it's like I can't even keep up. Like I downloaded because I was on Game Pass, had got it for Indiana Jones, and I was like, okay, I'll just go ahead and snag it.
Mm-hmm.
I installed it. It took me longer to install Call of Duty than I took playing it because I was like, I don't know, I don't really care.
It's
You
a
know what I
lot.
mean?
It's overwhelming.
Well, you have to. My biggest issue when you install one of their newer titles is you have to like unlock all of the weapons, and they don't. It's not a linear unlock. It's like not a linear progression based on which weapon type you're using. You get like this AR unlocks at level 5. This
Weird.
shotgun unlocks at level 6. This sniper's at level 12, and it's all over the place. It's So to get the guns that you want, you have to grind. And I hate grinding.
I mean, full disclosure, you do have to unlock guns in Battlefield, but it's like, they've got, for example, for the sniper class, you've got like 5 different bolt action rifles, like I was saying. The way that because they're limiting your technology, the way that they sort of give you there's like 3 or 4 versions of each one. Mm-hmm. One with a larger scope on it, one with iron sights, and then maybe one with like an intermediate scope. Right. And you get the one with the big scope is really hard to aim. You got more scope sway when you're standing, but it has a bipod versus the iron sights are really quick, but you give up any magnification. But you'll unlock, you start with a different version maybe of each one, and then by using that one, you're like, good job, you killed 75 other enemy soldiers with, this one, so you get to use the one with iron sights now, or whatever. But it doesn't really change the feel of the gun at all. It just gives you a different option, and there's still only 5 of them.
Yeah,
right.
I think the problem with the Call of Duty formula for me is kind of what Nick just alluded to. It's just like I'm just not built for the grind for all of that, and I'm also not the type of guy who I don't want to I don't want to use every weapon in the game. And so, even with the game that unanimously like has it, if we're talking about a game that has staying power, it would have to be the game that I've played for 8, going on 9 years now. Obviously, Destiny being what I'm referencing, and that game has countless weapons in it.
Yeah.
But the amount of weapons we actually use in the game, it's laughable, right? Like they can go back and update as many of these exotic weapons as they want to and put new ones in the game. But the truth of the matter is, like, when rubber hits the road and you need like the best of the best, there's such a small selection of things. And so that's how I play games like Call of Duty, things of that sort. I enjoy games. Another one that came to mind for me is just recently would be Halo Infinite. For me, I love going back to play Halo Infinite. It's one of those things where it's a lot of community drivenness to the game right now. Nick, this is a total sidebar, but they have this mode called Husky Raid, where two, and this is from older games and stuff. I only played it in Halo Infinite, but essentially you have like two teams of 4 or 6 or however many, and you're on. Basically, the maps are set up where they're just long vertical lanes with maybe some like terrain differences. So like this side will go up, this side, you can go under the map and you're coming out a little tunnel or something of that sort. Yeah. And so that's all Husky Raid is. And they're different venues, different variations on it. There'll be little like places, and you're just trying to progress, right? So they'll have boxes in the middle of the area, and you're trying to slide behind them, get there. But the thing that's crazy is you don't. It kind of is. But the thing that's crazy is you're not starting with like battle rifles. If you're lucky, you're starting with hammers and rockets and swords and everything. And so you just spawn in with something random. So the whole aside of this is someone in the community just used their Forge mode and created Tony Hawk Pro Skater Husky Raid. And they recreated like the first level of THPS 1,
right.
the warehouse. For Husky Raid level, and they're doing it.
Like
so I need to. I've seen the screenshots, but I need to.
That's amazing.
Well,
Halo Infinite.
I was just gonna say that's the way that like for Halo, that's the way that they kind of introduce like these game modes that make you try other weapons, right? But then for the balancing aspect of what you're talking about, they in like the competitive modes for different seasons or different portions of the game, they'll rotate it out, right? So sometimes you're starting in with the auto rifle, sometimes it's a scout, single shot weapon. A lot of times it's just the battle rifle, the good old pulse rifle, 3-round bursts, and that's what you have. And so they balance different parts of the game, but I like that they have so many different game modes, and the fact that weapons are just sitting on the map with spawn or with cooldown. So like you'll see across the map, hey, 1 minute that sniper's coming up in that exact same spot. The other team knows it, you know it, and you're trying to get to it. Instead of in your menu, right? Like what you were saying, you're like, oh, I'm just going to snipe. And if I die, I come back and I'm always sniping. I think it's way more fun if it's a shared resource in the middle of the map. You're trying to go for it. And so I think that's the type of thing that like differentiates from a Destiny where like I'm dying to a dude who he has more time right now than me, so he got the better gun and he just has it because I didn't have time to play. Whereas in Halo, like, okay, I died to that dude sniping me because he's better than me, and he used a grapple hook to grab the sniper as I was running to grab it, and then he sniped me before I even knew what happened, like that type of thing. So
skill
and that reminds me, in a very similar way, like this keeping this level playing field. Maybe what it really at the end of the day means is that the games that have staying power are the ones that require you to get good at them. Because another one that comes up for me is Dark Souls. I need to go back and play Dark Souls again.
Talk about grinding.
It's not even that. It's not grinding. You just gotta not be bad.
Yeah, you gotta grind.
I guess it's a skill grind, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean,
too casual.
You're learning the patterns of everything. So so Heather, she was real bored during like Christmas break, stuff like that, and I was like, well, why don't I was like, let me throw a couple games on the PlayStation. We'll see what we got on there, and we can sit down and just try them. And so I threw a couple on there. One being Outer Wilds, which we've talked about before. Her and I, we went through, we played, we did a couple endings, and then we're good. Like we felt completed with the ending we got. We're good there. And then she's like, "What do I play next?" I was like, "Okay, I at least need you to try Elden Ring because she adores the open world." I don't know if you guys have ever seen videos from the YouTube channel called Boyfriend Reviews, or I'm sorry, Girlfriend Reviews.
No, I don't think so.
Reviews. So the girlfriend tells if her boyfriend, like, basically reviews and says, like, should your boyfriend play Elden Ring, or should your boyfriend, they're married now, like they did it so long that they got engaged and they're married and stuff, but it's still called Girlfriend Reviews. And so they have this thing where they call hole up a minutes, which are just the little things you get distracted by. Like, what is that? Like Breath of the Wild and that type of thing. Like, that's the perfect thing where you see a mountain off in the distance and, like, you see something glimmering up at the top and you're like, ooh, I want to go there. And so Heather loves games with those hole up a minutes. Like, Go, hold up. Like, whatever I'm working on, I'm going to go do this. And I said, Elden Ring just is that game. Like, that's just everything about Elden Ring, where you just walk and you're like, I'm going this way, but I just passed 3 caves, and I'm sorry, but it's tickling the back of my brain. I have to go back and search them to the nth degree so then I can move forward. She came out, and I told her, I said, I need you to grind the little area in Limgrave, just, I can't think of what the castle's called right now, but just like right outside, there's the enemies, but then there's that one heavy enemy that has a shield. It's a little harder to kill than the rest. You know, it takes a little bit of skill. You can't backstab it and, kill it one shot. And she died like 4 times to that enemy, and she was done. And so she had no interest in that, and she was getting frustrated. I was getting frustrated because I was like, "Have you just tried that?" She's like, "Nope." So then, where we actually settled down, and she actually this week 100%ed was Ghost of Tsushima. She went through, she 100%ed the DLC, the normal game, did that, and there were actually some combat challenges in there for her and stuff like that. But that game just kind of like, tickled her fancy. She was really locked in on that, and so she's really excited for the second one to come out this year. So
that is exciting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, I guess it's at the end of the day, it really is just what makes you interested and what gets that part of your lizard brain. But when I was just thinking about this, for me at least, the ones that I come back to are not any of the story games, not necessarily any of the RPGs per se, but just the ones that sort of lock me back into whatever zone that I was in back when I played it the first time, whether that was, Dark Souls or Battlefield or Destiny, just something that sort of lets me turn my brain off. At least for me, that's what I would say is a game with staying power that, gets me in that way.
Yeah.
Forza.
Dick, do you have any that come to mind for you?
Forza. Race cars.
Forza?
Race cars. Vroom, vroom.
Yeah. Dude,
Classic,
Forza Horizon games are the, ultimate turn your brain off and just do dumb fun stuff because they're open world. You don't have to, lock in and do a bunch of races to unlock a bunch of stuff. I mean, there are unlockables throughout. You can cheat and buy, it's like $1 or $2. You buy the treasure map where it shows you where all of the unlockable things are, so you don't have to find all the XP signs and stuff on your own.
I think that's the way to go. That was super enjoyable for me.
Yeah, because the maps are huge, and you run into this problem where you're doing road races or circuit races or whatever on tarmac, and then you got to go off road, and the car you're driving sucks off road, and you can't go anywhere. So then if you don't have the fast pass bonus signs all knocked out, then you have to pay a bunch of credits to teleport to your home area to change your car, and it takes a bunch of time. So it's just really streamlines everything. Plus they release really cool DLC, have a bunch of cool community stuff online every week or so. It refreshes to a different season. They have new cars available in the shop where you can buy cool Ferraris or whatever. And you can just drive around and run over cactus and ramp off of sand dunes and drive through the jungle and race people if you want to.
Did you see that it's coming to PlayStation?
Yeah, good. That's fine.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's great. Honestly, there was a report that came out recently that Microsoft is the biggest publisher in the world now. Because they put their games. Well, they bought everything, but then they're continuing to put everything everywhere.
Yeah.
They put everything on PC, and they're crossing over.
Right.
And recently, Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox, or Microsoft Gaming, I think he's been elevated, and there's people that are under him now that hold titles he held in the past. But he was on a podcast recently, and someone said, can we talk about, because the Indiana Jones exclusivity will be up in April. And so they were talking about, what other games could come to PlayStation, and is anything off limits? And I believe it was Destin Legary. He's a guy who worked at IGN for a very long time. Now he's gone independent recently. He was doing an interview with Phil, and he said, does this mean that Starfield, could potentially come to PlayStation? Or is that out of the question? And Phil essentially, by omission, admitted that it will at some point come to PlayStation. He was not willing to say that it would not.
Right.
I guess is where it came to.
At this point, it feels like they're trying to cancel console wars, right? Like, I think that
good, fine, awesome.
I think the numbers that I saw most recently were that the PS5 still outsold Xbox, but I don't know that for sure.
Yeah.
So, like, instead of competing with that, just like, here, everybody can play our games. We're still going to make money off of it. I'm good with that. I don't care. I have 4 different systems. I have a PlayStation 4, a new Xbox Series X, a computer, and a Switch. So, whatever.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't have is the latest gen PlayStation because it's $700, and there's nothing on it that I can't play on PC that I want to play. You know what I mean?
Well, and the thing that's crazy too about the PlayStation stuff, I'm not sure if you guys saw, but this week the Spider-Man 2 most recent came out on PlayStation, a year and a half ago, has come out on PC, and it is in shambles. Like it is really rough. A lot of the display drivers.
Port's bad?
Oh yeah, it's really, really bad. So there's a lot of display driver issues essentially that are happening. There are some nightmarish cutscenes where like Aunt May comes out and her skin didn't load in. So it's just
oh god.
Her clothing and her hair is there, but it's just like white model, like the whatever base under, and then the eyes are there, and it's just like stuff. It is horrifying. And like obviously that's not what the game's supposed to look like, but if you weren't expecting it, that would be very jarring. And so a lot of people have been returning it and saying, I'm gonna let him get some patches in, or like there's a better use for my $70 and things of that sort. The other thing that's wild too is there's a lot of conversation recently about GTA 5 and a lot of console. Larian Studios, actually, one of the heads at Larian said, we are praying that Rockstar will push the price of GTA 6 up, to $80, $90, even $100, because they're like, we want a rise for the an inflationary rise for video games in the same way that we're seeing in a lot of other ways. And there's a lot of conversation that to be had there. You can look at the fact that games for 20 some years were $60, and then they made the bump to 70, and then they've been that for almost 15 whatever years when everything else is rising inflation. But then they're on the other side of it, the vast majority of games that are sold nowadays are digital. And so you have infinite copies for free that you can sell of a game, where you're just generating a license key, right? And you're giving that out. So you're not having to create these cassettes and things like they were back in the day. And so it's a very nuanced conversation on what the pricing and things of that should be. But when you're looking at games that are coming out or they're being ported, and like you were saying, Nick, it's like, well, I could play that when it comes to PC inevitably. It's like, well, hopefully that these guys keep putting the time and effort into the games that you want to play.
I'll start paying more for games when they start paying the developers more.
Well,
I'll start paying more for games when they sell me the game and don't just rent it for me like motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Don't come at me with $100 game.
We're shutting your game off. No more game. Bye. Yeah. Thanks for the money, loser.
We've talked about that for sure, in a lot of different methods, but it's that same conversation back to the Nintendo piece, right? Where if you're buying your games from Nintendo full price and digital,
12 years later.
Well, look, it is fair that the price of the games have not gone up, and if we're being truthful with ourselves, we are not. The price of the CD was only ever pennies. I'm sure pennies.
Yeah.
Maybe $1 or whatever. But when you're making it's nothing, right? Like what they really are trying to make back. They're trying to make back their development costs now today, like they always were, and those costs have gone up. And it's only fair, Nick, if they're going to pay their developers more, they do have to have more money. However, does that mean they're going to do that?
No.
Yeah.
No. So.
Sorry for all the.
I'm not going to pretend.
Microsoft Gaming. I don't need him to get a bigger bonus. Pay your people more.
I mean, I
not
don't
to
need to
say
put-
that Phil is getting bonuses. I don't know that. So Phil,
Yeah.
if you hear this, I'm not, just a general making a general point. Please don't cancel my Game Pass subscription.
What? No, he's
Nick,
gonna
your
give you
Game
about
Pass is
7
canceled.
more. 'cause you're
Nintendo and
one-
Xbox are both going to come after me.
Yeah. We were literally just talking about that the other day. I said that would be the best thing that could ever happen to our podcast if Nintendo would try to do a strike for us, because we'd hit a news cycle for a day and people would hear about it. But
Well,
We're not saying anything new.
so I was going to talk about some deep philosophical things tonight, but let me pose this in the same vein for tonight, guys, and then we'll probably end up wrapping up for this evening. The philosophical world is, you have the guarantee of what you were just saying, Nick. Like, I'll pay more when they're paying more. Like, if you had the guarantee that this is going to save jobs at the studio, and obviously I know this sounds far-fetched, so just hang with me, but like, it's saving jobs, we're getting better quality jobs, these devs are getting more time in a better, more efficient way to produce the games that they need to. Are you willing to go $80, $90, $100 for a game that I'm not talking about a game that we're spending, 4 or 5 hours, something like that. But we're talking about like the GTA 6 experience, right? Like something that's as sweeping as that's going to be, created for that. I mean, what are your thoughts? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
I got no problem with that. I mean, like, I have spent a lot more than $60 on Destiny. I've bought every yearly expansion for the last 5 years. So, somewhere in the neighborhood of $500, some odd, maybe more, on Destiny.
But do you feel
I
like
also
you've gotten
have
the value out of it?
Oh yeah, no, I've got thousands of hours in Destiny. My price per hour for entertainment is low as can possibly be compared to many, many, many of the things that humans spend entertainment on. So that's fine. So I certainly wouldn't mind paying more, especially if it means, the devs aren't overworked, which means they're, feeling better able to work on projects that they are passionate about, which is always what makes a good game. If you're not just grinding out for a paycheck, but instead the overall salaries in the industry go up, and people are empowered to choose jobs that they want to be in, and so on and so forth. I mean, there's so many intangibles there. I'd love to participate in that.
Yeah.
In our fantasy world where the money doesn't get pocketed by the bad actors, then I'd love to participate in that, because they absolutely do deserve a raise like everybody else does with how bad inflation has been. For sure. Of course. I want them to work on projects that make them happy, because that means we get games that are sick as fuck.
Yeah.
Take Baldur's Gate 3, for example. Those guys made a sweet game.
Yeah, and it's crazy too to hear, I can't remember his name, but like the head of Larian being one of the main people who coming out, like when there were
that is a good
rumors
point.
saying, and they had an incredibly strong selling game.
Yeah.
But he's even coming out saying like, we need to raise the price of these games. Like they need to cost more on the consumer side, because it is a very unique economic structure. The fact that all of these companies, they pigeonhole their products into, there's a tier system, right? Like you have your under $10 games, and you expect, okay, this is probably really rough around the edges, but there might be a fun concept here. That's something you're going to pick up quickly on Steam or something.
You get an hour or two.
Yeah. Or like sometimes you get something that, like, you'll get it early, right? Like an Among Us type game or something of that sort. And it's like, okay, I'm going to scoop this up because this has been literally on the Steam store for like 4 years at this point, and they've just been making little things. And that kind of thing. And then you get, I guess, starting at the real place, you get the free-to-play games where you're buying all the cosmetics and the skins and stuff of that sort.
Yeah.
Then you get those little ones. And then it kind of like steps up, and you get like the AA type games that are in like that $25 to $45 range, I would say.
Yeah.
But then you hit this weird place where people say like, okay, the point is $70, and that's it. And so you're referencing every game. Occasionally you'll see a game that comes out for $60. If it's digital only, maybe they'll do that. What was Helldivers? Helldivers, wasn't that something around like?
I think Helldivers was like 50.
Yeah.
I want to say.
And so again, that was published by PlayStation, but then a lot of people would say that was more of like a AA type experience. They also are trying to get people into multiplayer.
$40
thing. Yeah. So, it's interesting because those numbers don't mean anything.
Right. Baldur's Gate 3 is 60.
Yeah.
Wasn't even 70.
It's the numbers don't mean anything, but people are ascribing to all this stuff. You know what I mean? Like they're saying like, hey, and so it's so odd. It'd be like you go down the street, you go down to that. We all have it in our mind, that one corner that has 4 gas stations on each side, like of the road, and they all like. You got the one that's 1 cent cheaper, and you got one that's 1 cent higher, and that 1 cent cheaper is going to be packed in. But for some reason, all these game devs, like, it's such a weird economy with the pricing, the pricing structure where I don't really see a whole difference between a game that's $60 or $70, that type of difference. So why wouldn't you just put it for the higher amount? But I guess in my mind, maybe I'm mistaken, but.
Well, I mean, you've got the psychology element. People value things more that they're charged more for.
Yeah.
Like there really is, and I mean, there really you can trick somebody into wanting your product more by making it more expensive. Conversely, especially when you hit a certain price point. So there's almost an element of them having to. If we're going to say this is a AAA game that is published by PlayStation or the next Call of Duty or whatever. You almost have to release it for 70, 80, whatever the new ceiling we decide is, because you release Call of Duty for $40, people are like, "Fuck's wrong with the Call of Duty this year?" Bad crop, something. What's going on?
They're just letting you keep a little bit more money for loot boxes or whatever the fuck you're gonna buy.
And that price point though, it's no guarantee that you're not going to get a game that's just loaded with garbage.
Yeah.
That's trying to bilk you for the rest of your money. You're going to get something that is exceptional option that is, gives you thousands of hours of entertainment, and you get a price per hour, it goes to nothing.
I also think that's one of the worries that people had in regards to Xbox purchasing, Activision Blizzard, and then putting those titles onto Game Pass. And saying, okay, we're going to wash or devalue, and this could have been like a shareholder deal or something of this sort, saying we're going to devalue the most valuable IP in gaming. And when we talk about that, it doesn't have anything to do with the content in the game. We're talking about the actual revenue on an annual basis.
Yeah.
The fact that they pump these games out, they have it set up at these 3, sister studios, and they're always in a 3-year cycle. And like clockwork, they hit it every single year, and they put out games that are above a 7, every single time. And I know a lot of reviewers, they'll break up and they'll say, okay, the story was an 8, and then the multiplayer was like an 8.5, and then maybe if zombies is in there or something else, Warzone, whatever. But the vast majority of the time, it's sitting around that 80%. And it seems like they've just found this good formula where they're like, okay, we're going to pump it out. So I remember when they were doing all the court, the FCC or FTC court, precisions and stuff like this. Like they're going through and they're saying, hey, like we're worried, we're concerned about this. We're concerned about how this is going to affect on a broad scale, all those things. It would be interesting to see, okay, we pull the plug on this and we go full, hey, you just pay $12 or $20 or whatever, whatever it is for your platform, and you can play it for as long as you want to. And so seeing Xbox kind of pull out of the console war, like Nick said earlier, and they're stepping into the publishing space and say, hey, we have a dedicated hardware piece here, and we have dedicated teams that can build the back end, of everything from the OS side of things. It's going to be interesting if they can find a way to replicate the success of like Steam OS, but say with like Xbox OS or something of that sort, and then have a handheld, or it can go on a wide array of handhelds, things of that sort. but the Steam library thing is such a draw for so many people. So I'm not sure if they'd be able to pull that off. So just a thought. I know we kind of meandered there, but I did want to talk to you guys about that, because that was kind of an interesting thing that had popped up talking about this discussion about raising the prices of it and doing that. And I think it ties back to that second topic of, like, you know, Battlefield 1. I'm sure you probably at that point paid $60 for that game.
Probably. I'm sure I did.
Probably.
I'm sure I did.
And so when you're talking about a game that you love, a game that you play this much, you know, it's incredible to think the value that's extracted out of that. However, how many games do we have in our backlog that we paid $60 for, or something like that, that we've never touched, or we've played for like an hour or so?
I'm pretty sure I actually spent $100 on Forza Horizon 5, because it came with like the season pass and the 2 expansions prior to, even before they announced with the expansions, where it said like, hey, you buy this bundle, you'll get those 2 expansions. They turned out to be like the rally expansion and then the Hot Wheels one, which is very fun. But yeah, so I guess I can't even complain about spending $100. I've done it several times on games.
And the other thing that Game Pass, or Xbox and Game Pass do, and this is the last thing I have to say on the subject, is, you know, so they do provide, I was going to say more value. They provide the appearance of value when they say, hey, if you buy, instead of getting the game for Game
discount,
Pass, you either A, get a discount and you buy the full game, or B, if you want to play Indiana Jones and you want to be in the know when everyone else is playing it, guess what? I know you have Game Pass, but if you buy this for $70 right now, you're going to get it, you know, I think they released Indiana Jones actually like on a Monday. But then if you bought the actual game, or you bought the deluxe edition, you got to play it starting on like Friday.
Yeah.
So the idea of like, oh, I have this full weekend I can play, it almost got me.
It did that with Diablo.
Like, I just wanted to play it, and I was free that weekend, and it almost got me.
I was on the purchase page, and I was thinking, you know what? I got stuff to do this weekend. I don't need to spend $80, and I'm glad I didn't, because I liked the game, but I haven't gone back to it since I beat the storyline, since I did the campaign.
It's kind of the thought. So, well, boys, it was nice to get back in the saddle with you, Walker, and do that again. I appreciate you making time as always, and so we'll continue to do that. Like I said at the top of the show, if you would like to join the conversation with us, best place you can do that is on Discord. Visit that link that's at the bottom of the screen right now, bit.ly/ForcedToPod Discord. All one word, all lowercase. Just throw that in your browser. If you have a Discord account, it'll just invite you. If not, you'll create one. Hop in there and let us know if you have any thoughts on what we talked about tonight. Are you a wrestling fan? Who's, you know, what's the best time of wrestling? Things of that sort. We'd love to hear it. You know, should Sax go? Like, should I go? Should I try to put that on my bucket list? Have you seen Peanut Butter Falcon? If not, watch it. Let me know what you think. So, appreciate you guys. Until next time, take care.